It'll say it on the screen. We're live!
We're live!
All right.
That was much more dramatic and nice as opposed to the like, what are we? Are we sure? Okay.
The benefits of being in the same studio. So here's what you missed last time. Picard explored the Steven universe and landed on Veronica Mars. And LA came to investigate a fight between a Falcon and a Winter Soldier, but they are just arguing, what if Loki were still alive? The elementary school put on a show called WandaVision, but some hawk guy ruined it. And that's what you missed on That's the Show. I think I pulled that off.
Yeah, I think that worked out really well. And I especially liked the video people get to see us dancing to it.
Yes.
If you are an audio-only listener of the pod, you didn't get to see that. And
yeah, we were bopping around to our own theme song.
Right. I'm sorry, but also, you know what? It's a podcast.
I feel like TV shows are full of people who are actors who dance around and sing their own theme songs. I feel like I've seen that a lot.
I don't feel like I've seen that a lot, but I mean, sure, let's go.
Well, what are we doing, Rachel?
We're gonna record a podcast. We're doing it.
This is it.
It's real.
It's happening.
This is the thing. So we should probably introduce ourselves. If you have not listened to / watched our podcast before, my name is Rachel. I go by the Junie Bird online. I am 27 years old. I am the whitest chick you know. I'm she, her pronoun. There we go. That's what I got.
I mean, it's good to say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Paul. You can find me most places on the internet as @Paulidin, Paulidin. I'm Korean American, cishet male, a little neuroatypical. My pronouns are he, him. My Patronus is a pit bull terrier. My favorite color is red. I've been filling out a lot of dating profiles.
Yep. I mean, sometimes that's what life throws at you.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Speaking of things that life throws at you.
Yes. What's been happening in life, Rachel?
I this week have just gotten back to, according to Disney, summer is over.
Well, I mean, Disney does own and is the master of everything. So sure, why not?
So according to Disneyland Resort, summer is over and the cheapo annual pass holders are allowed back into the park. So that is what I did on Monday. Nice. I went and I met up with a mutual friend of ours, Paige, who, if you are not familiar with her, check her out, Princess Paige. She and her friend Sarah do have a YouTube channel, and it's really cool. But we just went to the Disney park. There we go. It was great. I hadn't been in a while because I had been blocked out. Yeah. So it was really nice, and I got to do all the rides.
Have they made like the Star Wars stuff like better, more efficient, more cleaned up now?
I wasn't able to get into Disneyland. I could only go into California Adventure. So gotcha. I still have not seen the Star Trek, or I've got Star Trek on the brain. The Star Wars land, Galaxy's Edge, Batu,
got it.
Stuff. That will be next month sometime.
That's exciting. I'm jealous. What's new in my life is that I have plans to get a bunch of Los Angeles content creators, including the two of us, to hang out together in real life, which almost never happens unless like the YouTube space is putting on something where they need an audience. But otherwise, we never get to hang out with each other because Los Angeles is sprawling and transportation is hard.
Yeah.
I'm doing a beach day on Saturday at Dockweiler Beach. I'm going to be there all day. I will probably die of dehydration and sunstroke, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun. That's what I'm doing.
You probably are aware of this already, but I will be going to this for at least an hour or two, and I am going to the beach for you.
I know. I mean, I wanted to invite you because you're my friend who is an LA content creator,
right?
But you don't go to the beach.
I never go to the beach.
So this is astonishing.
I don't think I've been to the beach in over a year.
That's all? I don't think I've known you to go to the beach at all in like the 3 years I've been here.
And like by the beach, I mean to the ocean, not necessarily like going into the water beach. But I have been to see the ocean either for like the Santa Monica Pier or something like that. I don't think I've been in the water in the beach. I think it's only happened once since I've lived in LA.
I mean, if a week goes by when I'm not in the water, I feel bad. So that's how different we are.
Yep.
But we don't have to be the same in order to have a podcast.
We have other things in common.
We do.
Speaking of, we're going to move on to the next segment of our podcast, which is our hot takes.
Hot takes.
I'm going to talk about a show that is not out yet, that will be out at some point in the future. I think it's cited for like November this year, because it was announced at D23, which is the Disney convention.
Yes.
And this is the High School Musical streaming show that is happening. I really wish that I didn't have to talk about this.
I like that, and the advertisements for it, like the tagline is, "They're almost all in this together." That's cute. That's cute.
Ooh. Okay. There's so I have a love-hate relationship with High School Musical. It's a thing. Mostly hate.
Hashtag controversial.
I mean, I think that there are like 2 good songs in it. I think that the plot is predictable and boring. I think that the like caricatures of these like high school stereotypes are not great. There's a lot to hate, but it's somehow I watched the trailer for this. I've probably watched it about 5 times at this point, and I seem to get chills every single time I watch it. So I guess I'm excited.
What is the show? Give us the premise of this show. Is it just like the first movie? Again? No. So this is it's very meta.
Okay. You haven't seen anything about this, have you? Okay.
Nope.
So in this series, High School Musical as a movie exists. And it takes place at the high school that they filmed High School Musical in.
That's kind of amazing, actually.
Very, very meta.
I'm kind of into it already.
And from what I'm gathering, it's the new drama teacher who is kind of driving this. And she shows up and realizes that the high school where they filmed High School Musical has never put on High School Musical.
That's amazing.
So
wow.
She takes it upon herself to rectify this situation and puts together a cast. So she casts a theater nerd as Gabrielle, and some guy who is not a theater nerd who used to have a crush on this girl who is playing Gabrielle as Troy, as like the love interest.
Wow. Okay.
For the musical. And that's like it's very like the whole story of High School Musical, if you're not familiar, is pretty much don't like reach out of what you are like stereotyped as and like be more.
Right.
Even though it's really bad at like fitting in with those stereotypes, it's also trying to tell you to move out of them.
Okay.
And so I think that's kind of the central conflict of this series as well, is like how to break out of the status quo. Yeah.
Okay. It sounds like it's going to be like if there were a Glee episode about High School Musical, except an entire series.
Yeah. And I think it will be like, I can't imagine this being a multi-season series. Like, I feel like this is a one-and-done miniseries.
I mean, I kind of felt that way about Glee, too, so.
Because Glee was supposed to be a one-and-done miniseries, and then they just kept on going.
Kept on going.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at with that. And apparently Google, or not Google Plus, Disney
Plus. The other plus.
Disney Plus already has my money.
Yeah.
Not happy about it, but that's where we're at.
They've got my money for a lot of reasons. I wanted to talk in my hot takes about a TV show called Schitt's Creek. Now, I actually think that one of our friends / viewers, maybe Katrina Ames, somebody, recommended this to us in the interactions on our podcast, but I can't remember who it was who recommended it. However, lots of people have said that Schitt's Creek is a very funny show, but the name put me off. First of all, it
really?
seems
okay.
I mean, like, scatological humor is just, it's very low bar. It's low bar to me. But I also didn't really want to see it because, like, the main stars are Eugene Levy and Chris Elliott. Now, Eugene Levy's fine, but Chris Elliott, I can't stand him. Like, he purposely plays characters that you're not supposed to be able to stand, but it's effective. I can't stand him.
Too effective.
Yeah. And, like, Eugene Levy is a perfectly fine actor, but, like, the American Pie series is what I always tend to think of, and I'm not really into that humor. So for a lot of reasons, I kind of avoid watching the show. Finally, I just went to Netflix because, like, the first 4 seasons are on Netflix, started watching it. The first season was kind of rough because the whole point of it, like, the premise of this is that it's like a reverse Beverly Hillbillies. Like, instead of being poor people who become rich and they go to the Beverly Hills, they're rich people who go from a fancy place to, like, middle of nowhere place that's literally called Schitt's Creek. Like, that's the name of the town. And they go there because they lost everything in some sort of big financial scandal, except for the one thing that the patriarch of the family, played by Eugene Levy, bought as a joke. Like, as a joke, he thought, oh, there's this place for sale called Schitt's Creek. That's a funny name. I'm just going to buy it and just, like, have it. And then when everything else was taken away from them, that's the only place that they had left. So they went to live there. And the first season is mostly just a bunch of wealthy people acting like jerks. That's a little too real. It's a little too real for 2019 United States. I'm not into it. But by the end of the first season, and then certainly getting to, like, the second, third, fourth, there have been 5 seasons so far.
Wow.
All these seasons.
I didn't know it was that many seasons.
Yes. Okay. Not long seasons. They're like 13 episodes-ish per season. But throughout the seasons, the characters develop more and become more human, more compassionate, more socially aware of things. There's one character in particular, the son of the family, David, who from the get-go is coded as a queer character, and then it becomes a lot more explicit and canonical that he is. I think he's fluid. I think he's either, like, pan, bi, or fluid. It's not really explicitly defined, but he certainly dates people from a variety of walks of life. And they use, like, ridiculous little analogies to try to explain it, and yet still be family friendly, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, by the time, like, the second or third season rolls around, he has this relationship. David has a relationship with another male character, and it's, like, the sweetest thing. It is so adorable. I want them to succeed. It's so great. It's great. And there's also, like, this emo girl, Stevie, who is his best friend. Like, she's like the sassy best friend of the gay character. It is great. It's great. Cool. I enjoyed it a lot. It got very funny. The only character in the entire show who doesn't seem to progress or grow at all is the matriarch of the family, played by Catherine O'Hara. She just stays the same through all the seasons. And that is, like, slightly drugged up, very oblivious, and super drama, super, like, theatrical person.
Feels a little bit like Arrested Development-esque. I'm not a huge fan of Arrested Development, TBH. Yes, we are talking about Schitt's Creek.
Fireword Sparkler just commented. I guess it must have been Nurali who told us about Schitt's Creek.
Maybe.
Thank you. Yes, that is what I'm talking about. It's such a funny show.
I haven't seen it.
And it's on Netflix. Well, the first 4 seasons are on Netflix. It's actually aired in the United States. It's a Canadian show, but it's aired in the United States on Pop TV, which is also the network that saved One Day at a Time.
One Day at a Time.
One Day at a Time.
Once upon a time? That's a totally different show.
It's a completely different show. But I understand. I make that same mistake. Yes, so I am supporting Pop TV for both Schitt's Creek and One Day at a Time now.
Double thumbs up.
Yes.
Yay.
And I believe that you can watch the 5th season on the Pop TV, I think like their app or their website. I watched it on YouTube TV, but I think you can watch it on Pop TV.
Yeah, I believe that. That sounds right.
We have a comment. We can do this now because we're doing a live podcast.
Sure.
We have a comment from Nirali that says, fun fact, Tim Rozon from Winona Earp is in it, and it's so bizarre. It's true. Like,
I also haven't seen that show.
Oh, well, Winona Earp is excellent. And he plays in Winona Earp a gunslinger out of time in modern days, but he's like from the days of Wyatt Earp. And he's like, he wears a cowboy hat. He's always got lots of facial hair. He talks in a very strong drawl. And then he shows up as like a romantic interest for one of the characters in Schitt's Creek. Completely clean-faced, like a little bit of facial hair, but mostly clean-faced, very modern, no cowboy hat. What's happening? It's great. I like it.
Do they put him in a cowboy hat and make a funny reference to it?
They don't. I wish they had. I wish they had. I would have liked that meta aspect to it, but they didn't.
I really enjoy meta jokes like that, and we'll loop back to that later.
Aha.
Foreshadowing.
So my hot take was Schitt's Creek. And I'm going to go back to the thing I started doing last season. 8 out of 10 stars. I give things stars now. 8 out of 10 stars for Schitt's Creek, the series.
Okay. I have not star rated anything.
You don't have to. It's a weird me thing.
And don't really plan on it, TBH.
Never have to.
I am going to talk about a show called Derry Girls. Derry Girls? I've already forgotten how to pronounce it. It's a show that is actually a British show, but it is on Netflix. And the first season was on Netflix for a really long time, and the second season just came onto Netflix in the last month or so. It's a show about a group of friends living in Ireland in the 90s. Yes. Hi, Milo. And it's a, like, I didn't realize this, but apparently there was like some kind of conflict, and I don't know what it's called, like revolution or something in Ireland in the 90s. It is not a thing that I was aware of, but it's kind of happening in the background of this series. Mostly the show is about these friends and all the weird things that they get into. They go to a Catholic school. They hate Protestants for some reason.
Oh, the Irish.
They hate English people.
Oh, the Irish.
Yeah, this is a really short hot take because I have only watched a few episodes of the second season, but I'm really enjoying it. This is a show that you should potentially watch with captions because their accents are very heavy. Very well done. And yeah.
Comments from our viewers. Fireword Sparkler Nirali says that Derry Girls is excellent and funny too. Is it funny?
Yes, it is. It's a comedy.
It is a comedy.
It's like a half-hour sitcom style.
I thought it was a drama when I saw it come up in like the recommended things on Netflix.
I mean, dramatic things happen.
Okay.
The end of the first season is one of the girls in the friend group, like, accidentally coming out as a lesbian.
I mean, who hasn't that happened to?
Like through an anonymous essay that was put into as like into the school newspaper.
Yikes. That is dramatic. Okay.
Yeah. So dramatic things happen.
All right.
But it is a comedy, and it is quite funny.
I mean, Irish and comedy, I'm sold very quickly. So I'm into it.
I think you would like this show, actually.
I gotta check it out. I got Netflix. I might watch that.
There we go.
And hi also to Milo from me, who also chimed in with an exclamation for Derry Girls. Hi, Milo.
Yay.
Let's see here. My last hot take that I wanted to talk about is also on Netflix. I watched it because I saw some people on Twitter talking about how it was an interesting show. It is a show about robots in a future / alternative reality. It's a Russian show, and it's called Better Than Us. I think the Russian title is actually Better Than Human, but in the English version, they call it Better Than Us. It is captioned and dubbed, and I tried watching it with the English language dubbing and the English captions on at the same time, and it's one of those situations that I hate when they don't match. I hate when the English caption and the English dub don't match. Oh, it's frustrating.
Why do they do this?
I don't know. I wanted to check it out. I wanted to give it a shot because I do like AI concepts. I do like sci-fi shows. And some people that I like were interested in watching the show. I don't actually know if anybody I follow liked the show. They were all just talking about how they were interested in the show. So I checked it out.
Did you like it?
I did not like it.
It didn't sound like you
I did not. I haven't even watched the whole. I think it's like a 14 or 15 episode season 1. And I think I made it to 10. I tried really hard to get through the whole thing. It is not, and I don't think this is just because of a Russian translation, but I don't think it's well written. I think it's very boring and predictable in a lot of ways. There's some gratuitous violence, content warning for like a sexual assault in the very first episode. But like they don't really do anything that's particularly challenging in the concept of what is human, what is intelligence, what is sentience. It's mostly just this robot does things that we don't want her to do. Let's react to that. That's basically it. That's basically the whole show.
Yeah.
A robot does things that we don't want her to do. Let's react to it in some fashion. It doesn't even say whether
that's the show.
That's a good title for something. It does sound a good title for something. I will say that the main character who plays that main robot, Paulina Andreeva, does a really good job.
Okay.
Like her robotic motions are very like fluid, but she's also like putting a lot of thought into her movements, and the way that she speaks. Admittedly, it is a dub that I'm listening to, but still, the way that she speaks is pretty spot on for what I'd want an android to sound like. So that's all pretty well done. I like the performance of it.
Yeah.
But like they don't do nearly enough sci-fi stuff. They've got like some cool overlays of texting. But like Sherlock's already done that. I mean, lots of people have done that.
What's the movie? Oh my goodness. This is embarrassing.
That's all right.
That I can't remember this movie, and when
normally we would cut this out, but we can't do that because we're live.
I'm gonna be.
That's okay. When it comes to you later on, just shout it out in the middle of whatever's happening during the podcast.
Perfect.
That'll fit our brand.
It will.
It will
actually. And speaking of our brand, part of our brand is telling you to go watch the things.
Yeah.
But
I'm telling you not to watch this thing.
Another part of our brand is we watched it so you don't have to.
Yes. Yes. Better Than Us was not better than much of anything.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Oh, I wrote it in my notes. I wrote down it's like a more poorly written version of Humans that only has one central robot instead of multiple central robots. If that tells you anything, the show Humans is actually pretty high quality, but this one, Better Than Us, it's not better than Humans.
Nice pun there. That leads us to our halfway mark and our ad break moment. We only have one ad today, and it's Paul's ad. So you take it away.
So I go to my notes here. The year is 2030, but nothing cool is happening. Instead, you're going to listen to the only person worse than Ross Geller, Ted Mosby. He's going to waste 9 years telling stories that have almost nothing to do with how two kids' father met their mother. At least Willow is with that guy from the Muppet movie. No, the recent Muppet movie. At least Agent Maria Hill is hanging out with Dr. Horrible, despite hardly ever getting to sing or defeat supervillains. This was a sitcom? About an architect? I don't know, kids. At least Neil Patrick Harris was funny sometimes in between the misogyny. How I Met Your Mother. All 9 freaking seasons. available for purchase on places like Amazon and iTunes. Go see it if you want.
I mean, it was very popular.
It was very popular. And to be fair, I did watch every episode.
Yeah, I feel like How I Met Your Mother, there were two camps. There was the, like, here for the ride camp. And there was let's just meet the feckin' mother camp. And I was so far into that camp that I couldn't even start the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that camp was not satisfied, I believe. I know I wasn't satisfied by the meeting of the mother.
Mm-hmm. No one that I know or heard of was satisfied with the ending of that show.
As Nirali says in our chat, How I Met Your Mother, character growth cut short to fit the plot. Yeah.
From what I know, that sounds accurate.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I had a really great transition and then I lost it. This is the episode where Rachel loses the plot. The one where Rachel can't remember what's happening.
Rachel loses the plot would make an excellent title for an indie movie.
Yeah, it would. I should write that. So my long take for this episode is going to be Star Trek Discovery, which I've just started watching fairly recently. I haven't quite finished the whole first season, and you've watched some of the first season.
I watched like maybe half of the first season.
Okay.
And I'll tell you right now that one of the reasons why I couldn't get through Star Trek Discovery, I mean, I'm a big sci-fi nerd. I like Star Trek. But one of the reasons why I couldn't get through it is because I always associate Star Trek with being an exploratory show. You know, the Final Frontier, where no one has gone before. I don't want it to be a war show. And that's all it felt like to me when I was watching the first season.
Similar to my own like hesitations with the J.J. Abrams Star Trek series.
Sure.
Feels very like action fighting heavy. So Star Trek, last week we talked about Star Trek Picard, which is soon to be available on CBS All Access. Star Trek Discovery has 2 seasons out already in their entirety on CBS All Access. Season 3 has been announced. I am very behind in my like Star Trek world.
In your Trek.
Yes. In like almost every version. Like I've seen almost none of Star Trek.
Like none of the series?
I mean, I've seen episodes of the original series, and I have a video. We'll put this later in the description of this chat. I have a video where I talk a little bit more in depth about my personal journey with Star Trek, among other series. Where Sparker's Voyager is the only one worth watching. Thank you for that information. Also, I'm in too deep, and I have to see this through now.
Star Trek Voyager is excellent. It's the only one prior to Star Trek Discovery with a female captain as the main character.
So about that, they kill her in the first, second episode.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, which is not a huge, it's definitely a spoiler. Sorry, but also it's not a huge to it. I feel like that was a pretty open secret.
Yeah, everybody knew.
That the Asian female captain of the ship was going to be killed.
Yes.
Pretty early in the series.
Yes.
The main character, Michael Burnham, is then tried and convicted for mutiny because of that. There's really a lot to love about this show. The cast is really amazing. They have this really diverse cast of both humans and racial diversity, as well as aliens. The first officer is an alien that I have not seen before, but I'm imagining is one that we've mentioned before and I can't remember the name of. And this is a live show, so I can't look it up.
I'll try to look it up while you're doing that, while you're talking.
So it with this diversity in mind, it seemed a little bit strange to me that after the first 2 episodes, they kill off this Asian woman captain. The actual captain of the Discovery, which is the name of the ship in the show, is a cis white dude.
Google tells me that the first officer of the USS Discovery was a Kelpian named Saru.
Yes.
There you go.
There you go.
I've never heard of a Kelpian either.
Okay. Well, I feel less bad about it then. So it felt like there's so much wonderful diversity in this cast. I'm just like, wait a second. But like, why is there a cis white dude still in charge? Turns out cis white dudes can't be trusted.
True in TV and life.
Yeah, so like we're going hard spoilers. And like
you just said it. You told everybody. We're spoiling. We're
spoiling it. He's a traitor. From another universe. Yeah.
Wow, I would not have guessed that one.
Yeah. This show has done something that he's damaged. Norelli says he's damaged, so he must be interesting. And like that's not how that works.
That only flies in college.
Right.
And even then it shouldn't.
It shouldn't. This show does a thing that the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. also did.
Okay.
Which is that the first half of the season is pretty much like setup and character development. And then the second half of the season is the actual plot of the season.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where they jump into the alternate universe. That's where like stuff starts happening. And I hated it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I vastly dislike it in Star Trek Discovery. Now that like I'm really hooked into the plot, I kind of want to go back and watch some of those earlier episodes that have this like character growth kind of stuff. But it's like the first like I'd say 6 episodes are so like they do kind of a bottle episode, which is fun. Rainn Wilson shows up. They do.
Like, yeah, he's like that. He's Harry Mudd or something, isn't he?
Yeah, that's his name. He's kind of like a space pirate, I guess, would be the best way.
That is a character from the Star Trek original series.
Yeah, there you go. It's like there's a lot to love about this. That also, I think that the alternate universe aspect of it kind of validates and like. It ensures, canonizes the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, which I didn't love because they are so action heavy and feel like they're not doing the exploring portion of the thing.
Not that anybody asked, but I really liked the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie. I really hated the second J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie. And then I really loved the third Star Trek J.J. Abrams movie. And the third one felt more like they were getting back to exploration, which I liked.
Right. So I like they do the like in this one it's like there's alternate universes and like every character that they see in the third one was directed by Simon Pegg.
No wonder.
They go into alternate universe and like literally every character has a double pretty much.
Ooh.
So everything is different. And it really validates that the idea that Leonard Nimoy Spock could go into a different universe and meet Zachary Quinto Spock and Chris Pine Kirk. So I really enjoyed that. I'm not sure which universe we're in Star Trek Discovery. Because like in season 2, which I haven't gotten to yet, we meet Spock.
Huh.
And also Michael Burnham, the main character, is like kind of Spock's sister.
Huh.
His like human adopted sister that he's never talked about before. And apparently they're gonna get to that. There's also this element where a lot of the like technology and stuff like that is more advanced than Star Trek the original series. When it's supposed to be before Star Trek the original series. It's like 10 years before. Apparently that's another thing that they're going to explain. And just by like looking at the like title cards of the episodes, like I can see that they kind of do to some extent like go backwards in technology in order to get to that point. I'm not sure why. I haven't gotten there yet. We'll see.
I wasn't a big fan of Star Trek Enterprise, but at least they were consistent about keeping the technology looking more primitive than Star Trek the original series.
Right.
Even though the quality of the TV show was higher resolution and higher quality than the TV show original series. At least like the ships they were on, the technology they had access to, that was all more primitive.
Right. They had to have a translator instead of having the universal translator technology. So I think that they're going to get to that. I haven't seen it yet.
That reminds me of how they had to retcon how Klingons look in the Star Trek series. Because in the original series, they just look like dark mustachioed human beings, but then in Next Generation they had the huge forehead crest and stuff, and so they had to retcon how that existed. And the first time they brought it up, they asked Worf, "Hey Worf, why does the Klingon look like that?" And Worf is like, "We don't like to talk about it." Which is the best. I wish they just stuck with that. That was so great.
Yeah. I feel like they might have to do a little bit of things like that, where they kind of retcon stuff, but also we'll see. My favorite, I haven't even said my favorite part of the series yet. Is that Anthony Rapp is in it.
Okay.
If you are not familiar with Anthony Rapp as a human, you should be, A. And B, he is the original Mark in Rent. There we go.
Got it.
Which he was on the Broadway show original cast, and he was also in the later movie version. Anthony Rapp is so good in it. I'm assuming you're saying Star Trek Discovery. I agree. Hard agree.
Was he also good in Rent?
He's also great in Rent.
So he's just good in
everything. More appropriate and relevant to our discussion. He is really great in Star Trek Discovery. He plays a scientist in Star Trek Discovery. And the first time he goes into a little science monologue-y soliloquy thing, I completely zoned out on the science and just started singing Rent at the TV.
Funny.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Of the episodes that I saw where he was in it, I just like the fact that he was a nerd who was snarky. That's appealing to me.
Right. And two favorite Anthony Rapp moments that I will mention. One is when he's saying to the main character, Michael Burnham, oh, it's no one's that crazy. In order to do this thing, you would have to go into the middle of space in this storm and then also do this other thing, and nobody's that crazy. And then he's just wait, are you that crazy? And she just kind of does a little Spock eyebrow raise, and he's just noted. Okay. And then my actual favorite Anthony Rapp moment is when he tells his husband in the story that after they get through this, they're about to do some big thing. After they get through this, he will go to see La Boheme with his husband, the opera that Rent is based on. Even though he hates opera. And I was screaming.
That's some good meta humor right there.
Some really great meta humor.
I wondered if Anthony Rapp actually suggested that to the scriptwriters.
Can you
make my character hate opera? I think that'd be funny.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed that. I think that the Venn diagram of Trekkies and theater nerds, the overlap there, I feel like it's very small. I could be wrong.
I think it's pretty big, actually.
Maybe it's larger than I'm assuming, but it feels to me like they wrote that joke for 24 people, and I happen to be one of them. So thank you. I mean, yeah, it's probably larger than I'm imagining, and a lot of people really enjoyed that joke. But
I mean, to be fair, my circle of friends is mostly sci-fi people who like theater. So
right. I told a friend of mine Mary, that I'm just like, oh yeah, Anthony Rapp is in Star Trek Discovery. And she's like, what? Why did no one tell me this? And I'm just like, because your overlap of Star Trek friends and musical theater friends is not very large.
That's Mary Lou of the Tea?
Yes. Tea Time with Mary. So the last thing that I'll say about this show, if it hasn't been obvious, is that this is a very modern feeling show. Like Star Trek The Next Generation, like Star Trek the original series, they couldn't do serialized plots. They tended to be very episodic. There were some serialized elements to the earlier shows, but they were very limited by the way that television worked in the 60s and then later in like the 80s and 90s, which is that you mostly couldn't rewatch things or binge watch them.
Right.
So they had to, if not have it be very episodic in general, they had to explain enough in every single episode what was happening so that people who just jumped in could catch on. Yeah. And that's not a thing that they have to do in this series.
Yeah, every time like there was a Next Generation episode where the Borg happened, they'd always have to start off the episode with previously on Star Trek, and then like show like different scenes from lots of different episodes so you could catch up about the backstory, and then they could go into the episode. Right,
and they do sometimes do that with this as well. But it feels more like a previously on, aka these are the things that are going to be relevant in this particular episode.
Right.
As opposed to like explaining the entire backstory of the series.
Got it.
Again.
Got it.
So I like that, but it also feels really strange for a Star Trek to be so serialized. And once again, I have not quite yet finished the first season. I was really hoping that I would finish the first season before we recorded this episode, and then I started reading Harry Potter fan fiction instead. So
also on brand.
Where my life is on. Like, can we put that on a t-shirt? Like, I need to put that on a t-shirt.
What's that?
Like some sort of fan fiction saying, I'll send it to you, Norelli.
Nice.
It's actually another friend of ours, Hallie, who I was talking with about Harry Potter fan fiction, and I was like mentioning, it's like, oh yeah, and this story like goes completely off the rails, and this happens, and this happens. And she's just like, I don't want to read that. That sounds weird. And then 2 days later, she's like, can you send it to me?
Nice.
Yeah. So
I think most of the people who will tune into this show already have a working knowledge of how TV works, but if you are not sure what it means for a show to be serialized versus episodic,
good note.
I will jump in here and do some Paul-splaining. So episodic means that if you watch a show out of order, all by itself, you can still understand the episode. It doesn't make you don't need to know a bunch of things about the entire series or the entire season in order for you to appreciate and enjoy the one show. A lot of shows that are syndicated, like the original series of Star Trek and Star Trek The Next Generation, have lots of episodes where you can watch just one episode, no other episodes, and it makes perfect sense.
Or at least enough sense that you're not lost or confused.
Right. I mean, it makes as much sense as the show makes sense. But if it's a serialized show, then starting off in the middle of the show will usually not make sense. To be like, where did this character come from?
Right.
Why are they motivated to do this? Why are we moving in this direction with the plot? And I don't know what happened that caused them to go in this direction. And they won't explain it in the episode because the assumption will be you've been watching the serial of the episode from the first to now to the next. That's what it means to have serialized shows.
Yeah, and to give an example of both, the X-Files is very episodic.
Very episodic.
Because it was the 90s and they couldn't do serialized shows, but they also had serialized elements to it with the larger plot. Mm-hmm. Whereas its modern counterpart, Fringe, is so serialized.
Yeah.
Not as much as in the beginning, but like much later on, it becomes so serialized that you can't even try and watch it without the context. I really want to rewatch Fringe.
It's a good rewatch. I rewatched it last year and it was great.
Is it like, where can I find it?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I'll look it up. We'll look it up.
We'll find that later. Star Trek Discovery is only available on CBS All Access.
Yes.
Until
CBS finally realizes that they could have about 10 times more viewers if they stopped doing that. I hate that.
I hate it too. But now that I have access to the CBS All Access platform, eventually I will probably wind up talking about the Twilight Zone. So stay tuned.
And I will probably take advantage of your CBS All Access so I can watch Picard.
I will see. It's not technically mine. It's my uncle's.
I've got other ways of getting access.
Okay.
It's fine.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it later.
My big thing that I want to talk about is a show on Amazon Prime. I went into plotting out the shows I want to talk about during this episode by thinking that I didn't want to just talk about one streaming platform. So I specifically went to A, Netflix, B, Pop TV, / Canadian stuff, and then C, Amazon Prime. So this show is on Amazon Prime, and it's called Fleabag.
Amazon Prime is reminding me that I don't think I've talked about Good Omens on the podcast yet.
Oh yeah, me too.
Which is also a thing that I'm gonna have to do.
There are so many TV, like my list of to talk about TV shows is like 20 or 30 shows long. So we have lots of material to go over.
Yeah.
So Fleabag. Fleabag, in case you don't know, is a comedy, a British comedy show.
It's a comedy?
It is a comedy show. It's a dark one.
Okay.
About that's on Amazon Prime, and it's because it's a British comedy show. There's 6 episodes per season.
I mean, that's very on brand for Britain.
One of the reasons why Fleabag is a great show is because it was written and starred Phoebe. I want to say her name right. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who's becoming huge. Like she's blowing up in Hollywood right now and in entertainment in general because of how amazingly well she put together the Fleabag series for Amazon Prime. In the chat, Nerali says, all I know about Fleabag is that there is a jumpsuit and Moriarty from Sherlock. I will get to that. All
I know, as since we're talking about what we know about Fleabag, is that there's a hot priest.
Yes, I'll get to that.
Okay.
The premise of the show is that the main character doesn't have a name.
Wait, that's it?
Yep. She doesn't have a name, but she is the eponymous Fleabag. So in the context of the show, a Fleabag person is a person who just sleeps around and doesn't have a lot of value. So she is supposed to be that person. Nobody ever says, hello, name, in the entire series. They just say, hey, what's going on? And they start having a conversation. So that's weird. It's a weird thing. It's like a challenge. It's as if the writer, Phoebe, decided to challenge herself with this concept and just stuck with it throughout the show. It's pretty cool.
How many seasons is this?
2 seasons.
Okay.
Another aspect of the show, another primary component of the show, is that the main character breaks the fourth wall and talks to the audience directly about what's going on constantly. I really liked it when it happened in the other British sitcom show called Miranda, which lasted for like 4 or 5 seasons with some specials. It was great. She would like do something, and then she turned to the audience and do like wink, wink.
Miranda Hart, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I love her.
Yeah.
She's in Call the Midwife, which I don't know if I've talked about on this show or not, but like, go watch Call the Midwife, especially if you like female friendships, the 50s, and crying.
Or watch Miranda if you like comedy and female friendships and crying.
Miranda is comedic in Call the Midwife as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Nerali, you should especially go watch Call the Midwife.
On paper, all these elements of the show are great. Like the things that I want to see in a show are interesting framing, interesting writing, interesting gimmicks. I like those things in a show. Like that's one of the reasons why I like Community. It's one of the reasons why I like The Good Place. Like these gimmicky things that are different from other shows make me want to watch it and see if they can do it well. So I tried watching Fleabag, like when the first season dropped. I immediately was trying to watch it because it was about like a woman who is very sex positive, has no qualms about talking about it, and it's supposed to be a funny show. So I'm going to watch it. All right. I hated it. I tried so hard to watch the first season, but she keeps making self-destructive choices on purpose for no good reason, which is sure realistic for a lot of situations. I've been in that place in myself when I've been particularly, like in a bad, like in a dissociative way. But she was just doing it constantly, and it didn't feel like there was ever going to be any sort of like, I don't know, salvation for this character. And so like by like a third episode, I was like, oh, this is just too hard for me to watch for a funny show.
Yeah.
And I stopped watching. And then several of my friends kept talking about how it was a great show. Taylor Brogan talked about how it's a great show. I think some of my British friends talked about how it was a great show. And I was like, oh, maybe I should watch this again. Maybe I should try. But I just couldn't work myself up to it until it was announced that the second season was happening. And in the second season, Andrew Scott, who plays Moriarty in Sherlock, the BBC series Sherlock. Hot Priest. Who would play the Hot Priest in season 2. That was like, ooh, I like that actor. I like that actor. I might give this a shot again. But I still didn't watch it until some of my friends who like talking about writing and television in particular said that there's a character in the second season of Fleabag who sees her break the fourth wall. Like the whole point of that concept is that nobody else knows that that's happening. That the audience is in her imagination and we're not real. But all of a sudden in the second season, somebody sees her do it. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I can tell you're really excited. You're screaming.
I'm screaming. Sorry, audience. So I wanted to see the show. So I went back to like the third episode or whatever of Fleabag, wherever I left off. And I made myself watch all 6. It wasn't even that long. 6 episodes of the first season. And it was good. I mean, it was high quality. It was just rubbed me the wrong way because, again, a character making self-destructive decisions on purpose constantly for no good reason. And then it was kind of explained why it happened in the very last episode of the first season. So there's that to look forward to. But then the second season happened. And the second season, the whole first episode of the second season is basically Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character, the Fleabag character, says, I've had character development. I decided to grow and change and become a better person. She doesn't explicitly say this, but she also kind of does explicitly say that.
Can I just watch season 2?
Yes. Nothing in season 2 requires you to watch season 1. You might like season 1 more than I did, but
my favorite part of TV is doing it wrong.
That's true. So watch season 2 first and then watch season 1.
So I might do that.
Yeah. And then in season 2, a little bit of spoiler here, but I'm not doing the huge spoiling here. A little bit of spoiler here is that this character who was just self-destructive and making all sorts of bad choices, but might have been a good at heart person, the Fleabag character, encounters a hot priest. And the hot priest is an overtly compassionate, doing the right thing person who might be bad at heart and serves as a foil for Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Fleabag character to figure out who she really wants to be in life and what kind of person she really is and what kind of persons that she wants to interact with. It's amazing. It's so good. Second season is so good.
Okay.
It's really good. And it's very funny. It gets funnier and funnier throughout. And there are parts where like I was literally screaming at the episode and I couldn't figure out whether I was screaming because it was hilarious or because it was awkward or because it was enthusiastic. Because I was enthusiastic about my affection for these characters. I was just screaming. I was just screaming at the episode. Nirali asks, Paul, is it good? Yes. Yes, it is. It is good.
She also has a suggestion for a t-shirt. My favorite part of TV is doing it wrong. I'm making a note in my phone of t-shirt ideas because I think I eventually at some point want to make some t-shirts, probably. T-shirt. Ideas. That should be hyphenated. There we go. Cool.
So yeah, I found it worthwhile struggling through. Now keep in mind, again, many of my friends just liked the first season of Fleabag. They're not like me. They didn't find it a struggle, or they didn't find it enough of a struggle to mention. They just liked it. I found it a struggle to go through the first season. But the second season, no struggles, just such good quality. Such good quality writing, and the acting was hilarious. There's this one character. I'm gonna spoil this a little bit too, but not a lot. There's this one character who's only in one episode, if I recall correctly, and she plays like this super badass lesbian businesswoman, and the interactions between her and Fleabag were so chef's kiss, so good that I wanted season 3 to be all about that character interacting with the Fleabag character.
I'm glad you're excited.
Yeah, but unfortunately, they decided to end the show at the end of the second season. I don't know if it was necessarily canceled, or Phoebe Waller-Bridges just wrote it to be the end of the show. But by the final episode of the second season, it is written in such a way that it absolutely puts a cap on the season and puts a cap on the show, and there's no question that it's the end. That's not saying that it could never be revived, but the way it's written,
Story 4.
It's written specifically to be the end. I still haven't seen Toy Story 4.
Yeah, there's not going to be a Toy Story 5.
Okay, all right, now I know that. All right, and so do all of our listeners / viewers.
I didn't say anything about why.
No, that's true. All right, okay, fair.
Nobody dies. Calm down.
It's Toy Story 4. It'd be amazing if it died. So I'm doing this whole giving stars to the show thing.
Right.
On most shows, I can give an overarching rating, but for Fleabag, I'd give 6 or 7 stars to the first season, but a solid 9.5 stars to the second season, which in my mind averages out to about an 8 for the whole show, but 9.5 for the second season. And the only reason why it's not a 10 is that there was one character that I just wanted to punch in the face. It's punch in the face every episode.
In a good 90s that bitch kind of character sort of way, or in a annoying.
I mean, he was kind of put into the show so as to contrast with the people he were partnered up with. So he really made the other people around him look really good. Really good quality people. But I just could not stand his character. I hated him so much. I really wanted him to hurt and die.
Okay.
But otherwise, it would have been a 10.
Good.
Yeah.
Talk.
Yeah, that's how I felt about that show.
Do you have anything more to say about it? I feel like you probably have more to say about it, but Milo is heading out. Enjoyed listening to you. We enjoyed having you here.
Thanks for being here, Milo.
Have a good doing dishes and going to bed.
Yeah. Good night, Milo.
We are, in fact, moving into our final segment of the pod.
We previously called this the mailbag, but I decided, and you can tell me whether or not how you feel about this, I'm going to call this the studio audience segment.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So let's do studio audience segment. We have a question from the internet.
From the internet.
From Instagram.
I remember there was this episode of Parks and Rec where they're on that boozy woman's talk show, and she's like, and we're gonna take a question from Twitter for the politicians because I guess that's a thing now. It is a thing now.
Yeah. But we're taking questions from Instagram.
From Instagram.
Okay. I'm maybe gonna say this wrong. At that mud. No.
At that Madison.
Madison.
At that Madison.
I figured that it was a spelling that I had not come across for a name that I had heard before. And I was correct.
Yes.
At that Madison asks, what's a fan fiction trope that you wish was incorporated more into actual TV? I
Hold on.
love this question.
Hold on, Rachel. Because I suspect that Rachel could talk about this for a very long time if she wanted to.
I have one. Go on.
Mine's very quick and short and fast. And it is more non-straight relationships. Like, I haven't read a lot of fan fiction, but a lot of my fan fiction that I have read has been slash fiction. And it's been about like characters where in the actual canonical thing, they don't get together, but they have like some sort of like fun interactions.
I feel like
kind of see
70 to 80% of all fan fiction is slash fan fiction. So
well, you are the expert, and I'm just an amateur consumer of fanfic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is the thing that I remember from the fanfic I read was that two characters whose orientation was not necessarily made explicit, but they always had different gender relationship interactions on the canonical story. In the fanfic, would hook up with each other, and it would be like, yeah, I can see that working. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I want more of that in actual canonical stories. Don't just like freaking queer bait and like have two women be like good friends who hang out all the time as gal pal. No.
Roommates.
Have them make out.
Roommates.
Screw roommates. They should be like
screw roommates.
Bedmates.
Watch Called the Midwife. Just gals being pals. Nerali.
Nice.
I said that to a friend of mine one time when we were at the Women's March last year. And I'm just like, and she did not recognize it as a reference to lesbians. And she like enthusiastically started saying it. And I had to be like, wait, no. You should know that this means something that you don't realize.
I love explaining memes to non-internet people.
Oh,
it's great.
Yeah. My therapist asked me if there was any cultural considerations that she should take into consideration, and I legit said internet culture, and she wrote it down. So to answer the actual question,
yes, what is Rachel's answer to the question about a fanfic trope that you want to see in mainstream stories?
So many, but the one that immediately came to mind was people who dislike each other or maybe have some sort of sexual tension being forced to share a hotel room.
Interesting. So like Draco and Harry have to go to a hotel room together.
Bad example, but yes. I mean, it's more seen especially with like procedural drama kind of stuff.
Oh.
Like, the only thing I can think of are like CSI or Bones. Like there's like they're going out of town and they're having to be in a hotel room and there's not enough. They actually did this on the X-Files. Now that I'm saying it out loud, they did one episode of the X-Files where
one of the first episodes.
No, it was later in the season.
Oh man, I'm thinking of a different episode.
Yeah, we're probably thinking of different things. They did it a few times in the X-Files, probably. But the one that I'm thinking of is like, I think in season like 7 or something, where like the entire small town that they are investigating just assumes that they are together. Very enjoyable hour of television.
Nice. Nerali chimes in from the chat. There's only one bed.
Yes, that is key for this trope to work, is that there's only one bed. So obviously they have to, and maybe there's a couch, but it's like tiny.
Is this like the scene in Captain America: Civil War where Falcon and Winter Soldier are in the tiny car together, and like Winter Soldier's like Falcon says, like, you can scoot forward, and the Winter Soldier says nope, and then the other one says, I hate you. It's like that, but like a whole scene.
No, not quite, cause like they eventually like wind up coming together always.
I see.
The other like fanfic trope that the thing that I read the most in fan fiction is like alternate universes.
Okay.
And that's like not really a specific trope in and of itself, but that is a thing that shows do sometimes.
Like Discovery.
Like Star Trek Discovery. No. Star Trek Discovery, that's like an actual plot point.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like there's an episode of Fringe where they're all in a like Brown Betty, that episode of Fringe where they're in like this alternate universe where they're all singing and dancing and it's like kind of film noir style everything.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah. So like sometimes TV shows do that and I love it. That's my favorite, I think.
I mean, that was like the literal premise of the entire show of Sliders. Did you ever watch Sliders?
No, I haven't seen Sliders.
Oh.
I should probably watch Sliders then.
I mean, it's like a show from the 80s where
I've heard of
four
it.
characters, they literally have a device that they use to slide between parallel dimensions, and every dimension is different and weird. Like in one dimension, the Nazis took over. In another dimension, everybody sings. In another dimension, black people are the majority, white people are the minority. Everything is a little bit different.
I like this a lot.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Yeah. They did that, like, they've done it on episodes of Fringe a lot. Bones did an episode where they were, like...
They were in a noir detective story. Yeah, it was
kind of like noir detective story, and Booth and Brennan had, like owned a bar, and the rest of the people were, like, somehow staff on their bar or something like that. I enjoyed it. It was great. The bar was called The Lab.
Yeah.
Obviously. But yeah, that's probably the other thing that I wish existed more in TV from fan fiction.
Alternate universe versions of the show.
Yeah. Coffee shop AUs.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any show that I've watched besides the ones that you've already mentioned that have alternate universe episodes.
Community.
I mean, kind of?
Yes. Not kind of. They do. There was there's one of the holiday specials is, oh wait, that's took place in his dream.
Yeah. Like the thing about Community's alternate versions is they're all still themselves.
Right.
They're just in a different version of their circumstance, but it's the same kind of universe.
Yeah. Raleigh says, I feel like procedurals are all AUs of each other. Yeah, I can see that. I enjoy.
Well, if you follow me on Twitter, then you might know that every now and then I'll just comment about how I think that a character on one TV show is actually still the same character from another TV show where that actor played somebody else, and they're just like pretending to be somebody else, but it's the same character. Because in my mind, all the shows are connected.
Which brings me to crossovers.
Oh, I love crossovers.
Which is another thing that occasionally happens in TV.
God, I love crossovers.
But not nearly enough, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I want John Watson from BBC Sherlock to be a wizard. Like a Harry Potter wizard who went to Hogwarts. And I will send anyone who's interested that fan fiction. Go ahead and at me on Twitter. Please at me on Twitter at the Jimmy Bird.
Nice. Actually, wait a minute. The ad break that I did when I talked about How I Met Your Mother, I was referring to every one of the characters as a character from another show.
Yeah. Yeah, you did that. I really enjoy meta jokes of television.
Yeah, me too.
Like when Nathan Fillion dresses up as a brown
space cowboy,
a brown coat in Castle.
Yes.
And then his daughter says, like, isn't that like 6 years old or something like that? And it was like the actual number of years since Serenity had premiered.
I love that.
Highly enjoyable. I think that we've kind of covered this question.
Yes.
And we should probably go.
I agree. So is that it?
What are we going to do now?
Oh, what are we going to do now? I need to get food.
Yeah, I'm like this is a trend. I also need to eat something.
No, I don't just mean like easily. I mean like I need to get groceries. My refrigerator has like baking soda and water in it. I need to get groceries.
I'm going to go home and make food.
Okay.
I have food.
I see. Nirali says bye. Bye, Nirali.
Go get food. Yes.
Okay, so now that we've talked about at some point, I will actually like have plans after one of our podcasts. I swear.
I mean, one time after a podcast, we all went to go see Thor Ragnarok, and that was the best one.
That was good.
Yeah. But think is that it?
Okay. That's the show.
The end. That's the show is hosted by Paul Roth and Rachel Pierce. Our theme song is by Mary Kate Jimenez Wall. Our Patreon can be found in the description of this video or the show notes for this audio podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you guys next time, whenever that is.